Round two.
Fight.
Fight. JP, thank you for your time.
Of course.
Okay, guys, this is a really good buddy of mine. We met in Orlando at Jungle, right?
Yep.
Jungle MMA. And I had my first MMA fight. I was so nervous.
Did you do well?
I did well. I did well. I won. It went well. But I was so scared. And this guy, you had my back at a really vulnerable time for me. And I'll always be so grateful for that. Is that we became good buddies from that point on. And then while I was doing law school stuff, you were transitioning from retiring from the military, prepping for police department work. What skill sets have you leaned on from your military service that have been the most appropriate, that have helped you excel the most in law enforcement?
I was in the military. In the Marine Corps, I was doing infantry stuff. And in the Army, this is what I finished with, I was doing military police.
Yeah.
So the transition from military police to civilian police is different, but along the same lines, where you're still having to do the same types of things to be able to understand the law and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But the difference of training wise, the tempo of training, the tempo of being able to understand, you have to switch hats.
Yeah.
Because not only are we military police, we also are combat police, where we got to go overseas and do things, right? So you got to switch hats. I think the best thing, coming from the military and transitioning into civilian law enforcement, or just into civilian life in general, is being able to adapt and overcome any situation that you run into.
Yeah.
Some situations, you do get flustered no matter what. We're human. But when it comes into the aspect of, changing at last minute or this or that, does it suck? Yeah, it absolutely does. But it could always be worse.
Yes. You're essentially navigating a transition from a series of chemicals of getting shot at someone with intent to kill you. It does something to you chemically, and then now all of a sudden you have to be able to turn it down and help somebody who has no idea what that's like. We got cut off. I'm gonna have to tweak some of this. To what's scarier, fighting a professional trained fighter or the crackhead at 7-Eleven?
I think the crackhead at 7-Eleven, and the reason why I say that is, as fighters, we know when to stop.
Yeah.
For the most part, you know what I mean? Like, we know when to stop. We know when enough is enough. We have respect enough for the other person. Like, all right, I knocked you out. I don't need to keep going.
Yeah.
If we're just in a brawl or I have to deal with someone, that restraint on the other person, that trained fighter, it's more common. You know what I mean? Like, it's there. It's going to happen. Probably.
Yeah.
As opposed to, which you can never assume that that's going to happen. But like, whenever I go in any situation, I look at hands and ears. Hands, ears, and nose. I always look at, right? But when you deal with that crackhead, they're high as shit.
Yeah.
They're not here. They're on a different wavelength.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they could be hallucinating. They could be feeling a certain kind of way. They can, whatever it is, they're unpredictable.
Yeah.
Like, they are your spastic white belt.
Yeah.
That's what they are.
Yeah. So white belts in martial arts terms, that's someone who's very new to the game, and especially so if we're talking jiu-jitsu where you're rolling, where you're grappling, you're pulling and pushing, and you're very close to somebody. You're essentially like hugging them closely with intent to choke them out or snap a limb. It's a controlled explosion, but it is scary, and especially when someone's new to it, they don't know how much muscle to give to the situation. In your military police capacity, you've helped me learn how to clear rooms, learn how to navigate a tactical situation. It's made you a great officer. And we've been talking about a passion because you've essentially checked that box. You are a successful police officer, and you want to build your own little passion, and that's a hybrid pub coffee shop. Can you talk about that for a minute?
I love coffee, first off, right?
Yeah.
So coffee is something. So in the military, it's caffeine, tobacco, and hate. You know what I mean? That's what fuels us, right? So caffeine. I love coffee. Most guys in the military love coffee, right? So I don't dip anymore. I don't do tobacco anymore. So coffee is now my thing. I don't know the first thing about coffee other than throwing it in my Keurig and pushing go.
Sure.
But I want to be able to set up a spot I want a veteran and first responder themed like cafe with a pub at some point. I want to start off with a cafe, then, branch off to a pub. What I want to do is, I had a hard time, as you well know, becoming a cop, getting out of the military because I have a VA status, you know what I mean? And because of doctors out there overstepping and all these kinds of
things. And so really quick, the VA status, you were injured? your service, and essentially the injury triggers this series of events, triggers the paperwork that says, hey, well, we're going to compensate you for the injury that you received fighting for the country. But then as a law enforcement officer, you need this clean bill of health to say, hey, I'm fit for duty.
Right.
And so you were having this competing, they were essentially telling you had to get rid of one to do the other, right?
Right.
And so you had tons of red tape to navigate, and you had all the skill sets already lined up and the friends and the connections, but you had to navigate that red tape. And so in this place, in this coffee shop pub, you want to help.
I want to create. That? So what I want to do is, so like we were talking before, the American Legion and the VFWs. Those are all great organizations. They help out veterans and stuff like that. And those guys know a lot.
Yeah.
So picking the ears of those guys, you know, and different things. I want something where it's for everyone to come to. You know what I mean? And I want to help veterans who are in need. You know what I mean? So we're like, I got a veteran who's, you know, a double amputee and can't get a house. I want to be able to find a way to fund
him to somebody,
connect him to some way, somehow get him a house, do something, rather than me cutting a check to one of these organizations. Like, if I have a small business, I want to empower other small businesses, right? So, and I feel like that's what we're getting away from with all these, with Amazons and Targets,
giant corporations who are sucking up all the oxygen.
They're putting the foot on the throat of the American person, on the American, you know, man, right, or the American woman who's trying to make a living for themselves.
Yeah.
But that's what my coffee shop and pub is going to be for, is to bring community together.
Yes.
To try and empower each other, because it's all about connections, right? So you can have some dude here who's, you know, a multi-million-dollar, you know, business owner, and then you have some, you know, some kid over here who served 9 years in the military. He's got nothing going for him, but needs a job. And this dude's like, oh, well, I need what your skill set has, right? And then they bond together and they make something.
That's
you know
a
what I mean?
Beautiful thing. And thank you for your time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, and thank you for your service.
Today's the Marine Corps birthday.
Today's the Marine Corps' birthday,
and then tomorrow's
Veterans Day. So we won't be posting this on Veterans Day, but we're gonna honor them in retrospect. So thank you, brother.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you.